All right, good evening, everybody. It is just a few minutes after 6 p.m. This is April the 9th. It is our regular meeting of the Town of Spencer Board of Aldermen for the month of April. We have all of our board present this evening. The meeting is officially called to order, and we will ask Alderman Muhammad to give our invocation.
Lord, we come to you with a clear heart and mind as humble beings. We form here today to make good decisions for the town of Spencer, the staff, and most of all, the residents. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Board, you have before you your agenda for this evening. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening? Hearing none from the board. Mr. Manager, are there any additions or deletions from staff?
No.
All right, very good. We will then entertain a motion to adopt the agenda this evening.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
All right, there's a motion by Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And the agenda is set for this evening. We will move to our recognitions, and I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Patty Sechrist to make 2 recognitions this evening.
Thank you. As a former North End educator, I take as much pride in our students and alumni as I do my own 2 children. And our alumni and students are all over this county, really all over this nation and world, making significant contributions. Tonight I have the pleasure of recognizing 2 whose names I think you'll recognize. I'm going to start with Mr. Brian Alford, who is here tonight with his family. And in case you don't see him, he has the big North End shirt on. And I'm sure he probably just came from track practice because he helps with that too. And most of you probably know him as a big North End booster, the father of some great athletes who you have seen play, and also for his food truck, Something to Eat. Now his food truck is pretty famous because he goes over every Friday home game and he prepares food to accessorize what the Boosters Club, the band boosters and the Boosters Club sell in the concession stands. And trust me, North End has the best concessions in the county. A lot of people, when they get there, just go on and have their supper there. And that's a big deal, and it's a great thing that he does because it brings the community together, and he does it sometimes before the games. He went to North End High School, and he's also local as attending Livingston. But he does a lot more than sell things from his food truck, and I want to recognize him for that. Now, he does a lot with the food truck. One of the main things he did, and this was a donation, he was concerned about kids being out over spring break, and it came early this year, and some people were kind of caught off guard that it was so early. And when Brian sees a concern, he tries to address it. He doesn't just talk about it. And the next thing I knew, he was feeding students and some of their families at Salisbury High School during the week of spring break and North End High School at no cost to them. Now, that to me is a business that gives back to the community. He also has fed school staffs and many times school teams on special occasions. And he is very visible in the community doing this. Now, those are the things he does with his food truck. And I just mentioned he also volunteers at the school and helps with the athletic programs and is one of the biggest boosters that the school has. He also helps many families who come upon a hard time or teenagers who might need a boost up or children. And he accepts donations through fundraisers and sees that people aren't evicted, that they have groceries or what they need, medical expenses. So he really steps up for the community. If we had more citizens like Brian and his family, the world would be a kinder, and more responsible place. He has made our area a better place with his consistent compassion, empathy, and outreach. He makes everyone around him a better person. And at this time, I'm going to ask that Brian and his family come forward, and Mayor Williams and I are going to present him a certificate of recognition so the community will realize everything that he has done for all of us. Thank you so much. Words are not adequate. It's a lot. It is a lot, a whole lot. And we would like for you to have this. And it says, this certificate of recognition and appreciation is presented to Brian Alford for outstanding generosity and dedication to the town of Spencer, North Carolina, volunteering at North Grand School and providing something that needs food truck service. Thank you. Another Northland alumni or alumnus who we've heard a lot about in the last few weeks is Coach Larry Dixon of North Carolina State University, a 1990 graduate of North Rowan High School. And I have heard from Larry when I told him we were going to be recognizing him, and I told him how he could follow it in Raleigh. Larry said when he got over to the high school, he had to convince the coaches that he could play basketball. Now that's hard to believe now, because by the time he was a senior, he was on championship teams and was averaging 24 points a game. He did well enough that he went to Johnson C. Smith and was a Golden Bulls and received awards there, including Outstanding Defensive Player, Most Improved Player, and he was a star. And when he graduated from Johnson C. Smith, he then went on to begin his coaching career in high schools. I still remember the first time I saw him when he was coaching at South Rowan. After he had graduated from Johnson C. Smith, he came back to the middle school to visit his old teachers. And we were so proud of him. Little did we know that he was going to take off and wind up with a championship team at NC State. I don't think any of us were surprised, though, because he always had greatness in him. His first coaching job, as I said, was at South Rowan. Then he went to Winston-Salem Carver. Then he wound up at Garinger in Charlotte, where he was named the Observer Mecklenburg Coach of the Year. He left high school coaching to pursue the collegiate level of coaching, and he has coached in quite a few colleges. Always did well. Now, congratulations to the head coach at NC State for recognizing what Larry Dixon had to offer, and he was hired by NC State right at the beginning of the term, and Larry dug right in, and his biggest responsibility with the state team was working with the big guy, Burns. Well, I'd say he made an impact. Larry told me today, I wish we could have hit more shots. He messaged me, and I said, well, don't worry, because y'all blew out the ACC. Every team. I said, and I'm a Carolina fan, so for me to say that was a pretty tough thing to say. But I'll tell you, I'm an NC State fan too, and I re-emphasized to him how proud we were of all of it, of him, his coach, and his team. So let's give all of them a round of applause.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm a Clemson guy, but I've never pulled so hard for NC State in my life as the other night. So.
It's a great experience. Fun to watch.
We have one more recognition, and I'd like to turn it over to our MPA intern, Sky Allen. I think she is joining us by Zoom.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Good evening.
All right. Well, I know that Kyle already gave you a rundown of the Community Labor History and Storytelling Social Night at your retreat the other month. So I won't go into that, but I wanted to go ahead and thank all the people that made that wonderful event possible. I'd like to thank our librarian, Beverly McCraw, for being so generous with her time in the library space. She was a great voice during that meeting as well. Many people got to know her and got to know the library and all the wonderful books and services it has to offer. I would also like to thank Kyle. I know he's probably still on his vacation, but he did a lot of the in-person heavy lifting, and that event truly, truly could not have been done at the scale it was without him. I would also like to thank Brittany and Katie for taking the time out of their evenings to be event moderators and storytellers. It was great of them to donate their time, to donate their stories, and their work in definitely helping us out with cleanup afterwards. And I'd also like to thank everyone who came out that night. It was a really wonderful event. I heard a lot of stories I never heard before. I got a lot of new perspectives I never considered. And Max Dowdle, our artist who will be working on Town Hall, let me know that he had never had a community session like it, and he hopes to use it in his work in the future. So I think we've got an excellent project coming up with him. I'll give a little bit of an update later on in my section where I asked you all to accept the grant. But those are my recognitions for the event. Thank you all.
All right. Thank you so much, Sky, and thanks for all your leadership with the mural program. All right. The next item is public comment. We do not have anyone signed up this evening. Have we received any written correspondence for public comment?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. We will now move to the consent agenda. And you have before you the approval of minutes from all of our March meetings on the consent agenda. And so is there a motion to approve the consent agenda at this time?
So moved.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sledge. All in favor? All right. All opposed? And that is approved. And we will now move to a presentation from Betsy Mowry from the North Carolina Transportation Museum Foundation about the 2024 fireworks over the historic Spencer Shops.
So the fireworks company that we contracted for the past several years retired and closed their business. So last year we had to contract a new company. And as with anything new, things can go wrong. With anything normal, things can go wrong. At previous fireworks shows, we've had people sit down in our visitor center at Barber Junction, the post office, Deer parking lot. They've been able to see just fine. Last year's show, when the first couple bursts went off, we thought, seems a little low, but we didn't know. After the show, we got a lot of comments, a lot of social media posts about anyone who was not sitting down at the museum itself couldn't see anything. And it was very unfortunate. We felt very badly about it. But there was nothing at that point that we could have done. We have contracted a new company, a different company from last year. For this year, we explained to him what had happened. And I don't know if fireworks speak, but he said they'd probably use this kind of power, and they should have used that kind of power. And he assured us that his will be able to be seen from wherever people are sitting at various locations. So previous shows have been 12 to 15 minutes, and he has agreed to do, for the same price, an 18 to 20 minute show this year. So we feel very positive about that. We feel positive about him recognizing our problem from last year and working to correct that. So we're going to have the same activities that we've had before. We're going to have the food vendors. We'll open the museum at the grounds at 5:30. Food vendors, kids activities, yard games, the rides on the truck. People can just come go DJ, playing music, and they can just come and enjoy. Fireworks will start at 9:15. We got a lot of good feedback about the things that y'all did in your parking lot, your food vendors. I think you had some games or something, I'm not sure. But everybody just seemed to enjoy all that as well. So we just want to thank you for your support, continuing the partnership to bring this to our community, and just ask that you approve that for the budget for this year. So,
all right,
if you have
thank
any
you very
questions,
much. And remind us again, what's the date?
June 29th.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, and board, as a reminder, that is costs that we are planning as we're in the budgeting process, and we plan for budgeting each year. All right, the next item is to consider adopting a budget ordinance amendment 23-14.017 for the Rowan Arts Council 2023 Fall American Cultural Development Grant in the amount of $937.50. And we will turn it back over to Ms. Allen at this point to present this for us.
Hello, all again. Well, the mayor pretty much said it all. I do ask that you accept the generous donation or the generous grant from the Rowan Arts Council for $937.50. This will go into the production of hopefully by this early summer 2 new murals, one of which is the Ferris mural. To let everyone know, the panels were shipped last Wednesday. Thank you, Joel and team, for doing so. And the artist anticipates that they will be completed by early summer. I also was able to take your feedback about the outline of downtown into consideration with the artist, and he has brought back the water towers, which seem to be the preference of the council. So that was able to be accomplished. The artist will complete most of the work in his workshop in South Carolina and bring them up to Spencer to be installed and put on finishing touches for a little presentation that we're working on planning. The secondary mural that will be on the side of Town Hall will be worked on by Max Dowdle. He has presented to the mural committee meeting the first round of concept art. We've got a beautiful project here. It was very successful, and I gave him our collective feedback today, and he will have the next round of concept art ready for us within 2 weeks. And so that is going just great. And I would ask that you accept this grant in furtherance of this project. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sky. Board, any questions for Sky? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt budget ordinance amendment 23-14.017 to accept this grant in the amount of $937.50?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Muhammad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Moody. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Thank you all. All right, the next item is to consider ordinance 24-017 for 1840 US Highway 29 annexation. Mr. Blunt.
Mayor, members of the board, we skipped over the PowerPoint presentation at your pre-agenda meeting, but for the live streaming audience, I think we'll go through it tonight if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
So we will look at the annexation of the property at 1840 US Highway 29. This is a 1.69 acre parcel located at that address. You recently rezoned that to MU2 from industrial. There are 3 existing structures on that property, as you remember. One's commercial, 2 small residential properties, and much of the property is encumbered by the railroad right-of-way and road right-of-way. It's a little hard to see it at that scale, but it's right in the center of the screen. There's an arrow pointing to the property that's up for consideration for annexation. These are the views from the street of the various structures on the property. And the property is located next to the PCA and the property owned by North Carolina State, which is already in the municipal limits of the town of Spencer. This annexation would link that to the property owned by the NC Finishing Company that's under consideration for development. So it would make all of that contiguous. That is why we are supporting the annexation of this small sliver of property. Very limited amount of services required, and also a very limited amount of new tax revenue to help pay for those services. So we feel this is a good step in reforming that corridor out to the River District. Hopefully this will be the first of several annexations and certainly rezonings in that corridor. Again, that shows you how it connects those properties. to make all of that contiguous. The donut hole in the middle is getting smaller and smaller, and that is our overall goal, is to see all that annexed over time. That would be hopefully the next one we would see. That's the Fisher Lamb site that we've talked about numerous times. So that just reiterates what I just said. We would suggest to you to approve this ordinance as presented. I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Blunt. Board, are there any questions? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 24-07 to annex the property at 1840 US Highway 29?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Moody, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Next item is to consider adopting ordinance 24-08, which is rezoning of 1104 North Salisbury Avenue. Mr. Blunt.
This one is even simpler to understand and hopefully approve, because it's not just 1104, it's 1106 and 1108. This is a single property with 3 residential structures on it. The first contact they had with town staff was to subdivide it, because they would like to sell these properties. They can't sell them without subdividing them, and I could not approve the subdivision of the property because it created illegal lots based on the size. The SFR2 zoning classification has a slightly larger lot, a slightly wider frontage than the SFR3, which is what they've requested to have it rezoned. And that's a lot of verbiage there to tell you exactly that. That's where the lot is located, single lot. A fairly large lot, it looks like, until you realize it's got 3 houses shoehorned onto it. So that is the property with the 3 residential structures across the street from Rapers. That's a Google map look diagonally down, so you get a little better understanding of how it lays out. This is from Salisbury Avenue, showing you the 3 residential structures, almost identical in architectural detail and construction. I would have bet that there was a mill out here at some point, and these were mill houses, but I don't really know of any mills that were out there. So somebody just liked this style of house, I guess. The circle to the left of center there is where the lot is located. The yellow all around that is residentially zoned property. This is a rezoning that goes from one residential classification to another residential classification. So there's no controversy involved in changing of the type of zoning. So this would be the suggested motion language, and then we'll need to adopt a statement of consistency along with that. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Blunt. Board, questions? All right.
Are the homes that are located there, are they occupied?
As we discussed last night at the planning board meeting, I've been down there 3 or 4 times trying to keep our signs from blowing down, and I've never seen anybody in the houses. So I can't swear to you whether they're occupied or not, but they did not appear to be occupied. They are rental units. The owner actually lives in Salisbury. And again, I think what she wants to do is sell them to another owner for possibly owner-occupied uses.
All right, board, any other questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 24-08?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Muhammad, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Sledge. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Now we will entertain a motion to adopt the statement of consistency.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a statement of consistency and reasonableness stating that we find that this rezoning is consistent in general with the town's comprehensive land use plan per requirements of North Carolina General Statutes 169D-605A We further find this rezoning to be reasonable in all ways as prescribed by North Carolina General Statutes 160D, 605D. This rezoning will be beneficial to the citizens of the town of Spencer.
All right, thank you, Ms. Sledge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Blunt.
Thank you.
We will move to our departmental reports, and we will move to Mr. Blunt.
You have a copy of my written report in your package. I'll be glad to answer any questions about that.
All right, board, questions on the planning department report?
Can you tell us anything about the one that you closed your eyes and jumped into?
You'll have to remind me which one that was.
It's planning for another audacious step.
March 25th, the Atkin River District.
Oh, okay. We have received a preliminary report from the Atkin River District planning group that we hired and the steering committee that we created. The report is exciting, is eye-opening as far as the opportunity that this town has to develop that property along with the private property owners and the developer that's looking at it. In some of my thinking, and the reason I use those phrases in my report to you was that I think we can actually go bigger than what the report's suggesting. And I'm not suggesting the report doesn't go a long ways, but this opportunity is bigger than I think we recognize. And I think it's bigger than what Rolling County recognized. And hopefully at probably our next meeting, we'll bring that report to you officially for your adoption. And we can talk about it in a little more detail then.
Okay. I will say I've previewed the draft, and it is impressive. It's well done. It's the way it's been put together. It's a great planning tool. It's also a great showpiece that we're going to be able to use to show folks what the future of the northern end of town might be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next departmental report is code enforcement. I'll invite Chief File forward.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Our wonderful 8th Street ballpark is back in full swing tonight. So I'm dressed down a little bit because I just left the ballpark. I'm going to go right back to it. So my youngins playing over there themselves. So, well, I provided the monthly report for code enforcement. I know there's other questions that are pressing for code enforcement. I'll very briefly go over it. If you can tell, we're still kind of triage level on code enforcement using our contracted help. We did have 37 cases for the month of March. 30 of them are open. We have 5 abated, which means we sent out notice of violations, and they comply with those, and 2 that have been closed. Overall, we've had 93 cases year to date. So we're averaging about 30 cases a month. I would anticipate when we go back to a full-time person, you'll likely see that number double. We're probably going to be somewhere in the 60 to 70 cases per month, which gets me to the good information that we have selected a suitable candidate. So we're going to begin proceeding with the hiring and the background process on that. So hopefully by next board meeting, we'll have somebody to introduce to you. So we actually did their oral board session today. So that's kind of in the early stages. So we still have to go through the full background process. But as of this point, everything looks positive on that candidate. So and we're very happy about that. So I believe we'll be seeing some movement on that by next meeting. But I can definitely answer any questions you may have about code enforcement this month.
All right, board, questions?
Congratulations.
No.
And we're very excited. So we're very excited. You know, our part-timer, obviously we have the part-time individual that's helping us out that's actually on the PD side. And then obviously we're still contracted with Central Line. So I'll tell you, since this case, our part-time guy stayed out one night. He closed up about 10 of these cases. So he's really trying to keep it reeled in so that our new guy doesn't just have 200 cases dumped in his lap. So we're trying to keep it where it's manageable. But there'll be some training time there in the very beginning. So it's not going to be really a light switch. It'll take probably a quarter to really get 3 months time spent to really get our new candidate up and going. But we're definitely excited about it.
Does he have any experience prior in code enforcement?
Not in code enforcement directly. He's actually been a sworn law enforcement officer, so he'll likely be sworn in with us as a reserve. So he would have those authorities, but he wouldn't act on as an officer while he was here. He would be, solely concentrating on code enforcement only.
And one other thing, we used to see a lot of activity with liens being, I guess, issued. Or we haven't seen any of those. Is that that's a good thing, I guess, right?
Yeah, I would say a little bit. Yeah, it's a good thing. I believe there were a few that were missed when James departed, where he had them abated. I spoke with Joel very briefly about this. A couple that had been abated, and we didn't realize that he had never filed a lien on it. It was just an oversight as he was departing and going his way, where the paperwork wasn't filed before he left. Not anything major. We're not out any major money on it, and the properties remain in compliance. So we're not intending on moving forward on those few. It was small monetary values on those. But we have had a pretty good. I would say we're getting about an 80% compliance rate right now, solely by talking to people. So we really haven't had to pursue that yet. We've got we actually just sent out a few that are quickly going to become that, though, just from lack of compliance. But it's always those couple that seem to be reoccurring. So unfortunately, you'll probably see some more this calendar year for sure. But as of right now, we're doing real good on voluntary compliance.
Very good.
Board, anything else on code enforcement?
Is there anything, excuse me, I'm not as concerned about the tall grass. It's kind of that weird time of year. You got your control changed and the blade sharpened and all. So
Right.
That's going to happen. But in terms of, since we got someone new coming in, is there anything we can do either at the board level or staff level to help educate maybe new people coming to town or because I do see some recurring overgrowth, trash, debris,
Right.
that kind of thing. Anything we can do to help educate to cut down on that?
Yeah, I mean,
prevention versus enforcement.
right. Yeah, and that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to talk to the people more than going straight to an enforcement level. We're obviously hopeful that once we educate them the first time, they won't do it again. Unfortunately, we're seeing some tenants here that are having recurring issues, even after they're receiving NOV. So they're eventually complying after notice of violation is sent out. So then we go back and we put in there that they complied and close the case out, and 3 or 4 weeks later, we're back at the same address again. So we have made notification. The good thing is, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Good thing is it's mainly tenants. It's not actual homeowners here. The bad thing is, when they comply, it pretty much wipes the slate clean. So we got to restart with them again. So I will tell you, I sat down with Sergeant Everett, and we've kind of got a plan for the new code enforcement direction and how we want them to handle it. It's going to be a little more structured than what it was before. So, if somebody calls in a complaint on Friday, we very likely will not respond to it on Monday, because we're going to have some structured days for that code officer to know what he's doing that day and not kind of ping pong around the city. Because that was what was happening before with James. He was getting pulled every which way, and stuff was falling through the cracks. So we're going to have some dedicated time. So likely any portal complaints, the portals will be very important, but portal complaints are going to be midweek. So Wednesdays, he's going to follow up on all portal complaints. So definitely, we want the neighbors to key it into the portal, and that way we kind of know where to go. If we don't have portal complaints, we're solely going to concentrate on areas of the city and move around. So the Sour Straight Road may not see the code guy for a couple of weeks because he might be working the core of the city, but then he may be out there and the core doesn't see him. So we're going to try to move and then let him move back across. And that way everybody gets a fair shake. Before, people were saying they didn't see code at all, but it's because he was bouncing between areas of the city. He never stayed in one area long enough for them to match the city. He was out there doing work. So we're going to try to put him in an area and hopefully have open dialogue with citizens. So hopefully that will kind of help that problem a little bit.
So question related to things like overgrowth and that sort of thing with tenants. Mm-hmm. We're talking with the tenants, but are we also notifying the landlord?
Yes, eventually. So the way we're handling it, like overgrowth, especially overgrowth currently, we're giving them a 7-day notice. We make contact with them. We give them a 7-day notice. If they answer the door, we talk to them in person. If they don't, we door tag it. We tell them we'll be back in 7 days. At the conclusion of the 7 days, we send out the NOV, which actually goes to the landlord. So if they comply within the 7-day period, which, you got a broke down lawnmower like you were mentioning or something, we think the 7 days should be sufficient to either fix it or have somebody else do it for you. So it doesn't, put a burden on the neighbors around them. So there's about a 7-day period. We're not letting those go 3 or 4 weeks anymore. So you got 7 days. After that, you get an NOV sent to the landlord. At that point, typically we're seeing compliance in them because the landlord obviously doesn't want to have that abatement fee sent to him. So
All right, thank you.
All right,
We'll move on to the police report.
All righty, busy as always on the PD side. We had just shy of 2,400 events for the month of March. I always like to point out the good proactive stuff we're doing. So there was 207 park checks down at the Yadkin River, which we did encounter some individuals doing stuff they shouldn't have been. We took care of that. We recovered a wallet full of cash. I believe it was about $500 in it. And that was actually on the Davidson County side. I was able to get that back to the owner. So good things going on down there. Obviously, we're still concentrating on school checks with school being in, even though we had some time out due to the holidays. We had 279 school checks this month and then 181 additional park checks. 8th Street is back up and rolling. Like I mentioned earlier, we had 87 checks at 8th Street Ballpark. That will probably go up because the guys are going to spend time down there now that they're playing more games over here at 8th Street. So their program has really blossomed over here. So we'll probably see that in the mid 100s this coming month. So, but definitely a busy month. Ace team is still doing what the Ace team should be doing. If you saw the picture, we always like putting a picture in there. So we get to brag about that one a little bit. So that was that's a photograph of a bunch of guns we took off the street. You know, we don't know yet. All those guns get test fired and they get sent up to the state crime lab and entered. Very likely some of these will be tied to crimes that occurred inside our county. So they're doing a phenomenal job on what we pay them to do. So they are taking care of business. And you know, I see some of the funny Facebook comments that say they wish we would write tickets. They're writing a lot of tickets. So anybody that says we're not writing tickets, I think they just haven't been pulled over by us. So we're writing a lot of tickets, but all of them were like I mentioned before, they were earned tickets. A lot of 50s and 60 mile per hours and driving without a license and picking up people that's got warrants. So they are definitely earning their keep. So, but I can definitely answer any question you may have about the PD.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Board, any questions?
The picture of the firearms, is that cumulative? That's not what you confiscated in this month.
That was well, those are the ones that we submitted to the lab. So that was a 2-month period.
Okay.
So we have to actually go individually test fire each firearm that we seize. To get it submitted. So that would have been a 2-month period. So that would have been February and March's seizure. So definitely, I believe there was 10 in that photograph. So we're very happy about getting it off the street. And, you know, likely, pretty good chance most of them will not go back. So once we seize a firearm, it's all seized underneath valid rules, either carrying concealed or a felon that's carrying a firearm or a stolen gun. Typically, those don't go back. So if there's not a rightful owner, you know, they'll be turned over and they won't go back on the streets.
And the breaking and entry burglary in progress, that's
I'm not familiar with it, so it must not be anything. It would not have been anything that we would have been called out about. So that would be however it was dispatched. So if somebody saw somebody you know, outside a window or something, they may have called it in as that. But yeah, it was nothing I was aware of. I believe there were 4 shots fired on there for this month too, and all of those were unfounded. 2 of them were actually outside in the county, out 7th Street. I remember one of them was a child that was playing outside with something really loud, pots and pans, and a neighbor kind of got scared and heard it. I can't recall what the 4th one was, but they were all unfounded. So we've been pretty good on that. So.
okay.
All right. Thank you,
All right. Thank you very much.
Chief. All right. Fire Department. Chief Lanning.
Mayor and members of the board, how are you this afternoon?
Good.
How are you?
So I am great. Parking lot's reopened. I don't know if y'all seen that. There was a nasty diesel fuel leak in the parking lot earlier, and it was a mess, and people were driving every which way. But it's back open. Everything's good. So you have my report before you, and I've made a couple additions. One, I realized that my 2024 total was wrong. Forgot to update it for last month. So we're at the end of March. We were at 342 for the year. Last month we did go to 14 structure fires. So if you see, you ride by and the fire truck's gone. Unfortunately, a lot of those are in Salisbury. So you know, that may be a 2 to 3 hour window that we're gone. When that does happen, we have additional companies move up to their quarters to cover Spencer. So it's not that Spencer's uncovered. I do want to announce we'll have a community CPR class here April 27th from 10 to 1. We put that on social media. I'm just trying to get the word out. It's free of cost. I'm actually going to cover out of the budget the cost of the CPR cards. That way the individuals will be certified. And we're limiting that to 25 people. That's really just about the max that me and myself can do alone without a secondary CPR instructor. We did extend offers to 2 candidates and they accepted for engineer. They will begin next Monday, 15th. We are still attempting to fill the 3rd spot. It's still vacant as of now, and unfortunately we've not received any qualified applicants. The firefighter application period ended on the 1st, and we started with 17. We cut some that just didn't meet qualifications. Sent out 12 invites to agility test, and in the past 3 days, 2 have dropped out of the process. So we're down to 10. So on April 19th, we'll test 10 applicants for those 3 positions. And then I know me and Steve and Peter have been talking. So our SRU allotment that we get from SRU for the water system is normally used for extensions. We didn't have a planned usage for that this year. So the idea was to slowly start converting our hydrants over to be more user friendly. So we currently have 3 hydrant types in town. We have what we call dog ear hydrants, which have no 4 or 4.5 steamer cap, which is what we use to hook our supply hose to the fire hydrants. We have pipe thread and we have national standard. The only difference in that is the opening size and then the thread type. So with that is buying some, we're going to convert those over. It's just an attachment. It'll be a fixed attachment. We'll set screws and convert those over to where when we have a fire, instead of the staff having to get off the truck, put adapters on the hydrant, then being able to hook to it, they'll get off the truck and be able to hook the hydrant or the hose straight to the hydrant. But with that, we were, the pipe thread was going to be 20 attachments and then 130 for the national standard, which is the majority of our hydrants that we have are that, was right at $46,000. So just trying to get some feedback from you guys as a board if you think that would be something we could do, be interested in.
And as a reminder, our allotment is 55,000 a year.
50,000. Yes, sir.
And we are responsible for our own hydrants. I didn't know if the city of Salisbury is responsible for any of that or not.
It's a tricky question. Who wants to answer that?
Our understanding, from what we could tell, and I think from what Salisbury has said to us and how they have performed when we've talked with them about it recently, is that they do maintain the hydrants as if it was in Salisbury. So they maintain it as part of the system. Now, in terms of the system goes, again, this system expansion idea is that if there needs to be a water line extension, et cetera, some sort of project, we can ask them to direct $50,000 of funding each year towards something. And what we're saying is we would like them to direct $50,000 towards this fire hydrant issue. I don't know if y'all want to add anything
And
further
it's
to that.
basically, I mean, it's upfitting hydrants that they would not otherwise upfit, basically.
They're
If we were to ask
serviceable.
them, they would tell us that.
I know we signed a contract with them as far as that goes for taking over the water and sewer in town. I didn't know if that was in the paperwork or not.
The contract specifically says that they maintain and replace hydrants as needed. Their answer to these that we're trying to put adapters on is there's nothing wrong with those hydrants. They work just fine.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So if there were a hydrant that needed to be replaced, I think they're willing to replace in a way that this adapter in the long run won't always be needed. Is that correct?
With some changes to our development ordinance, and we're in the process of changing some verbiage for that for future additions, I know Hawkinstown, we were able to kind of get the developer to agree to them, is that these hydrants are going to come with that adapter already pressed into the hydrant. So it'll be upfitted to kind of what is more modern. I mean, the dog ear hydrants are old. That's been outdated 40, 50 years. So
Wow.
Just trying to get them again. The majority of our hydrants will work without it. But for us, on the behalf of our staff, it takes 20 to 30 seconds away from them trying to secure a water supply and put a fire out. It's just taking those seconds away for us.
And board, keep in mind with that $50,000 a year, that is from SRU, and basically it's either use it or lose it.
And 46,000 would be all, that's not all replacement, that's just the start, right?
That would be 150 out of 243.
Okay.
So it's right at half. Yep. And the only reason we came to those numbers is I did as close to 50,000 as I could, so it just worked out that way.
That's a good idea. Maybe the fire truck will back into a couple of them and damage them real bad.
If I don't have my glasses on, I don't know what to tell you.
Maybe.
Where
There's
did you
some
get your
hydrants in
driver's
town that have been
license?
hit and they haven't been replaced, so
Oh, well,
It happens.
it happens.
It happens.
never mind.
All right. So board, general consensus that we would like to use the SRU allotment this year for this purpose.
If we didn't use it for that, what would be the other option? Or is there?
We haven't identified anything, so
Okay.
it would be use it or lose it.
Okay.
And that's with less than 90 days to go, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's easy then, yeah.
That makes sense.
All right.
Thank you. You have any additional questions for me?
Thank you, good job.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks very
Y'all have
much.
a great night.
You too.
So,
Mr. Taylor, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Just a few updates on my report. This will be the last week for the loose leaf collection. It will stop on Friday. They're calling for some bad weather Thursday and Friday, so we may run it a few days first next week just to make sure that we've gotten everybody's. But this will be the last week for it. The mulch giveaway will definitely be held on the 20th from 7 until 12 o'clock. You can call ahead and reserve if you need any deliveries or anything like that as normal. The ladies up front will be happy to take their payment over the phone, whatever they want to do. And then they'll pass that along to me for that morning. If we see bad weather coming or something, we'll try to get that done like the days before we get there. So, let's see. The spring cleanup day, you probably already seen the message that it will be delayed. It's been rescheduled for tentatively on May 1st. I know we've got a lot of conflicts within house on that
So
day.
I think my understanding is we're gonna find an alternate date besides May 1st.
That's correct. So the United Way has rescheduled it in general to May 1st, but they're happy to let us find an alternate date that will work for our group. So we're going to work with the school to identify the best date and then proceed accordingly.
And I have all the materials already been delivered to the shop and they're prepped, and I had to move them really quick because of this weather. But they were dropped outside, but they're all at the shop ready to go for the park whenever we get ready to do it. We did partially complete a stormwater project on 8th Street this month. That is such a wet spot, and this rain hasn't helped us any. So if you go down Spencer Avenue right at 8th Street, you'll see a dirt bank which hasn't been completely fixed. That's why. It's in the process, but we do have the channel open now, so the water will actually run where it's supposed to, and then we'll get the rest of that taken care of. Still working out some issues with the garbage collection, and right now we are leaning towards going to that 4-day schedule. Tuesday and Wednesday we're pushing it to get to the landfill. Tuesday we do not get to the landfill when they get finished. So I've got Granite Sky, Mia Holzhauser is working on some map and some tags and stuff like that. We're getting everything prepped to make that transition, and we'll do it all at one time. It'll just be moving some people from Tuesday to Wednesday, and then some from Wednesday to Thursday. Monday will stay the same. So we're actually only messing with 2 days a little bit, and then takes the concentration downtown. Is what it'll do, kind of split that up just a little bit. And then what we call the backside, which is over around where Mr. Howe lives, anything across Whitehead, that will be added to Wednesday's route instead of being on Tuesday now. So, but we'll let everybody know. There'll be hang tags either put on your doors or on the cans, and then there'll be messages sent out beforehand so everybody will know. And then there'll be a new map posted on the website that'll kind of explain a little bit of everything.
So I know, we were running 3 days. We were talking about going to 4.
Mm-hmm.
We are only running one person on the truck now. Just, I guess, we're still more efficient even with
Oh,
4
yes.
days than we were before.
Definitely.
Want to make sure folks are aware of that.
Yeah, we're still running more efficient than we were before, and Eddie's still running with the garbage guy on Tuesday because of the time crunch. Trying to get the blue lines and that kind of stuff. And sometimes, like as today, we didn't get everything off of Tuesdays. The truck got full, they had to get to the landfill. By the time they got back, there had been nowhere to put it. So, this will just stretch those days just a little bit and give that one person a little more time to be able to get to the landfill.
Which we knew we were going to have to do at some point.
Right, and with the growth.
Yeah.
And we're taking that into consideration. Monday, not looking as much right now, and we've still got time on Monday, so we're good. Just the other 3 days, we gave a little leeway. So we'll have time on those days for a good while now. The update on the Chicken Springs Dam, we did have a great meeting with Mrs. Wilford and her son, Joe and I did. A lot of good things came out of it. We gave them some updates on what was going on our side. So there'll be more to come on that topic. We'll just kind of leave it at that right now. The CCAP, not much to say at this point, but I did meet with Chris and our new engineer Levi out at the job site. They actually did survey it and put the stakes in where the benching and everything is going to be. So that process is already complete. So they've got that part done. The mapping part's done. I still have contractors contacting me. One, I'm expecting a quote any day, but I do know that the permits are tied up with the Corps of Engineers. So there's our holdup. So, Chris says. So as soon as they know, we'll know. Chris doesn't seem to think that there'll be an issue with an extension as long as we can get construction started. So that's our goal right now, is to get construction started before the end of June. And even if we don't complete it, but as long as it's in the middle of it, then he feels sure that there won't be a problem with the extension. So that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
What department does that Corps of Engineers, who do they answer to?
That's the Army Corps of Engineers.
I know, but who?
Federal government.
Federal government.
Yes, ma'am.
And remind us again, the funding for this project is also from the federal government, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep, you linked the two.
Yeah.
I just know everyone I talked to that's got any permitting going on with stream or stormwater that has to do with streams or live water that has to go through the Corps of Engineers. Basically,
It's a slow
just
process.
yeah, just hang on. But they have responded wanting some information further from Levi.
Well, that's a positive.
And that's a
sign.
positive.
Yeah.
That means they're looking at it.
Yeah.
And that's what Levi said. He said at least they've got it in front of them. They know what they're looking at. So they wanted some pictures, and some of the surveying that they did, they wanted some numbers off of it. Okay. So he reported those back to them. So that's good. We're hopeful that we'll have those permits pretty soon. Get going.
So we don't need to write to president or anything like that.
Not at this point. Not at this point.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Taylor?
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Next is our finance report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to let you know that we had our quarterly ARPA monitoring list from Centralina, our monitoring visit, not the list. She said that everything was good with that and suggested that we put in our packet a contingency plan for our department, so I'm working on that. As far as our budget analysis, you have a copy of that, and I kind of went through that and made some notes on some of the accounts that were over budget, just so that you know that I'm working on those and some of the steps to take for that. Did you have any questions about that?
Board, any questions?
I just want to say thank you for those notes.
You're welcome.
It's helpful.
The sales tax kind of starting to level out, or is it still lagging a little bit?
It is starting to level out. I actually got right before the meeting, I've got notice that our payment for April should be in, and I've put those numbers in, and it looks the same. We're right at where we had budgeted for that, so it's looking better.
Good.
So, and I will let you know that we did our stormwater improvements. We did create you have an extra sheet in your packet because we started that project there, or on our budget.
Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome.
And finally, we'll finish up with the library report.
Good evening. So Beverly was very busy in March, and she's continuing to be busy this month, and working up towards her summer programming. Last month, she had a program on for Dr. Seuss's birthday, and the kids did crafts, and there was story time, and of course, green eggs and ham was a big hit. And then on the 12th, she was able to represent, she went to the middle school and was able to tell the kids and teachers and parents about the summer reading program that will be Wild Wild West themed this year. And she's been telling me about some of the plans for that, and it sounds very exciting. So I hope a lot of kids are able to come to that. And there are a couple of events that are still open for registration this month. Coming up is actually Alderwoman Moody, as well as our police chief Bile and Michelle Adams from the Rowan County Department of Social Services will be speaking at the library on prevention of child abuse in Rowan County. And then in May, she has Patty Callahan, who's a New York Times best-selling author, will be coming for, they'll have she's calling it a cozy British tea party. So that's going to be a big, fun event. Yeah, any questions?
I'd like to make a comment. I had a friend I haven't seen in a long time reach out to me one day on Messenger, and she said, "How in the world did Spencer Library get Patty Callahan Henry?" Well, I wasn't even sure who Patty Callahan Henry was, so I looked it up and read about it, and I thought, whoa. And this woman was just flabbergasted. So I got in touch with Beverly, and I asked her, and Beverly said she ran into this lady. She was a speaker at a convention or a meeting that she went to in Stanley County, and she just asked her if she would come to Spencer, and she agreed to. But she is very well known, and I've already bought some of her books and put them on my Kindle, and she's an outstanding writer. So if you are free on May the 16th, and you want to go to the tea, please register, but she still has a few, I think, spaces, and Monday is the deadline, the 15th, tax day. So you can remember that. But it sounds like a wonderful event she's planned, and I just think we're getting a lot of bang for our buck, because that library does a whole lot more than check out books. They have something going on all the time to engage the community.
Oh, yes. If anybody watching or present has any books checked out, please be sure to return them in a timely manner so we can keep them flowing.
Does she have a fine-free day?
Well, we actually don't have fines, but you won't be
yeah.
able to check anything out for 30 days.
Oh, okay.
Or if you don't return it, you won't be able to until you've returned it. You can't check anything out.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yes. Yeah, and that jogged my memory. I do want to thank the board for allowing us to put in the budget for Beverly to be able to go to that. I believe it was training and a conference. So I think last year was the second time she went, and she was able to meet a lot of people and learn things. And thank you.
I told her to make sure she invited the other media and library coordinators in the other areas of the county, and maybe they could come to Spencer too. I'm very proud of our privately our library that's funded by Spencer. A lot of people think it's part of the Rowan Salisbury library, but it's not. So we have had our own library for a long time. Very proud of it.
Thank you very much.
We'll move to the town manager report, Mr. Francis.
Okay, I really haven't had a whole lot to say tonight, have I? We've been clicking right along. But We talked a little bit last Thursday about the second primary and what that might mean for the May meeting, and it sounded like the developing consensus around that scheduling conflict would be to treat our scheduled pre-agenda on the 9th of May, I believe it is, as our regular meeting for the month, and therefore cancel the May 14th second Tuesday meeting due to the second primary. So I'm seeing some questions.
Is that the night of the tourism ball game at the?
The 9th would be that night. Yes.
It may be.
So I mean, it's the pleasure of the board that we do foresee that there is going to be a scheduling conflict to have the second Tuesday meeting the same night as the second primary, just due to the timing. Unless that, you could change the time and have it start after the primary election would be completed, which would, I think, be 7:30 or so. We could choose a different day, or you
I
could
know I will
use.
be unavailable on that Tuesday, the regular day, as well as the Wednesday.
And didn't you say, we're gonna be working with budget stuff, or?
We will be doing
Yeah.
our budget workshop.
Yeah.
I would recommend starting the budget based Sounds really
Pretty lengthy.
And that the schedule would be more of a budget, recommend a budget presentation. The workshop opportunities would likely fall later in the process.
But the plan would be, if possible, to do it in lieu of the pre-agenda meeting. We would make the pre-agenda meeting, since we would have that meeting anyway,
Yeah.
make that our regular meeting.
Regular meeting.
You know how I feel.
If the board's agreeable.
You gonna start at 6 or 5:30 or?
5:30.
5:30.
On May the 9th.
Yes. We'll keep it, since that is a traditional meeting time on that date, we'll keep it the same 5:30 that we typically use for the pre-agenda meeting. Everybody good with that? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so we can adjust accordingly. That same week, the day before, on May 8th, I'm going to be heading to Lumberton for a comprehensive fiscal training for local governments course. This is something to help make sure we are staying in compliance with general statutes that talk about required manager training when certain occurrences happen, financial occurrences. Some of those are things that are really not good, but what's causing it for us is for many years we have gotten a deficiency noted on our audit process related to internal controls, mainly around the number of people we have and our ability to effectively separate our financial duties. So therefore, I'm going to be attending the 6-hour course and make sure we're meeting the requirements that are laid out as such. I do feel that our staffing that we've been able to accomplish since this last audit, I'm hopeful that our upcoming audit will no longer have that deficiency in place. Time will tell, but I think we've made the adjustments staffing wise that should help us in that area. And then any questions about that? So then the other thing I noted, and you'll see an extra page, have before you a recommended update to our ongoing strategic planning document. And this is reflective of the time we spent back in March. And so it's there as an effort to capture what we discussed and deliberated about over the 2 days in March, and to capture that into a document that will then that eventually gets folded into our budget. The document itself, but it informs our budget process, right? It's a foundational piece to what we're aiming for when we're putting the recommended budget together for you. So if there's any feedback, I'm happy to take that into further account, or whether we'd like to discuss it today, or you just let me know sometime in the next few weeks. We can adjust it, and then what will happen is then that will be folded into the budget document as a kind of a final form for the year.
All right. Forward any feedback or questions for the manager?
This is about something that was mentioned earlier about the United Way, Dave Caring. Have you thought about what kind of dates are we looking at for that?
What we would need to do is talk with the school and see where they would like us or not like us to be there in terms of timing. We're not sure how. They may say you can come whenever you want. That's what we need to find out. We do know that there's about a 10-day window between last few days of April and the first 10 days of May or so, where our entire police staff is going to be in some training, and so we're going to need to stay away from that time window. And May 1st is within that, and that's why we're looking at alternate dates. We also had a conflict with our fire process that Chief Lanning was talking about with 10 candidates is going to take place on May 1st. So we're trying to avoid that time window. So it would either occur sometime before I think the 28th or 29th of April, or sometime after the 10th of May. But we haven't pinned down a date yet.
Reshuffling babysitting duties. Grandma sitting, great grandma sitting.
It may not be. We're not even sure what it opens up days of the week. It may not be on a. I don't know. I think the original date, of course, was a Thursday. The May 1st rescheduling was a Wednesday. So if there's any particular dates that we need to avoid or try to find, but you would prefer it not be on a Wednesday, I think. Correct. That's
the day I usually spend chasing twins.
So if we can get back to a Thursday or a Friday, I would say I know for Public Works, for example, a Thursday or a Friday would actually work better than a Wednesday would. So we're likely going to be in that part of the week, unless for some reason we do it on a Saturday. But then finding the right Saturday sometimes becomes the challenge too.
All right. Thank you.
Well, I bought some boots, so yeah.
You're prepared. And one thing I will mention, speaking of the United Way, is there was a ceremony earlier today in Mooresville that the town was recognized in a similar way that we were at the county level, but on a statewide level. The Spirit of North Carolina Awards happened earlier today, and the town was recognized for our recent campaign. And I think we had about 135% growth in our year-over-year campaign performance for our the annual United Way campaign. And of course, that was over $1 million effort for Rowan County and that was mentioned in the room, and people from Charlotte and Mooresville and elsewhere heard about $1 million plus raised here in Rowan County. There were some gasps and sounds of surprise. So a lot to be proud of in this community, and the efforts of our staff and several elected officials that took part as well. Appreciate everybody getting involved in that effort to support the critical needs in the community.
Well, thank you for leading that process for us.
Yes.
All right. We'll move on to requests and comments from the board and mayor, and we will start with Mr. Miller.
All right, I have two comments tonight. First of all, I'd like to remind everybody, Sunday, April the 21st, the Spencer Community Appearance Board will be having their second annual tea party, and that was a fundraiser for putting things back into our community garden. Last year it was very successful. We had over 45 people there, and I think everybody had their bonnets on, like Easter bonnets almost, and we had assorted teas and other foods, and went over real well. And there's been a lot of communications about that, so I'm hoping that we'll have a second successful year. And secondly, I'd like to bring up a point. Tonight we were approached by the transportation over there at the museum about funds for fireworks. And, that that really draws a lot of people into Spencer. I mean, that's amazing, the number of people. You don't realize it till you actually look at all the people that's there. And that's something I think this board is kind of missing right now. One of our past members, Mr. Morgan, as you remember, one of his specialties was trying to do activities in the community. And that's something I'm not saying we're kind of not covering as much as we should. I know everybody appreciates firefighters and policemen and having their garbage picked up and everything else, but at the same time, I think they appreciate having some little fringe benefits, as I call it, about having different activities, whether it's an outdoor concert or something like that. And my pet peeve has always been, why don't we use the library park a little bit more than we do? And I'd like to see maybe the possibility somebody on this board would probably pick up where Sam left off and try to encourage and set up some dates for some local people to participate in that way, to entertain folks on Saturday night or something like that. So that's my 2 cents worth tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Yes, Ms. Moody.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm going to put in a plug for April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. I'm a very proud citizen of Spencer to see that we have a pinwheel kit planted in front of our town hall and our police station. Pinwheels are the international symbol for child abuse prevention. And so I thought I would just share a little bit of information for April. We know that 1 in 10 children, show your pinwheels, guys, good job. We know that in the United States, 1 in 10 children will experience sexual abuse before their 18th birthday. That's 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. So those are pretty staggering numbers because every single person in this room knows at least 10 children. We know that as of 2024, 93.4 or 0.6% of sexual abuse that children experience is perpetrated by someone extremely close to them and their family. So stranger danger is not the most accurate thing to be teaching our children. And lastly, just that child abuse occurs across all socioeconomic levels, ethnic and cultural lines, and religion and education levels. And so I think that those points are really important for us to remember as a community. And I will second what Anna helped us all remember, that on April 16th from 4 to 5:30, we invite all of our North Rowan neighbors to come meet with the Terry Hess Child Advocacy Center, the Spencer Police Department, and the Rowan County Department of Social Services to have a conversation about how we recognize and respond to child abuse and help protect kids in our community. You guys can ask questions. We can have conversations about just generally how we protect kids as a whole in this community. And I think those are important conversations that maybe people don't have often enough. And so we're really lucky to have our library host this important conversation at no cost. And so again, that's going to be on April 16th from 4 to 5:30. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howell.
Sure, I'll be brief. Just 2 things as we head into the spring and summer. I know with school winding down, it's going to be a little bit harder after the next few weeks, but support the 3 public schools here in our school, in our town. Go to a baseball game or catch a sporting event or a concert. I did notice that all the cars at the 8th Street Ballpark yesterday. I was thinking I need to get me a hamburger at some point. And support local businesses. We still have, we have a new tire shop open down on the way out towards Salisbury, and we've got still got some young and growing restaurants. So get out and support our schools and our businesses, and it's going to be, I think, fireworks and all those things. It's going to be a good summer. So I'll yield my time with that.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing that I wanted to remind our citizens about is the spring Spencer Senior Luncheon that is coming up. It's in May. It's May the 21st, but the reservations have to be made by May 13th, which will be shortly after our next meeting. So I can remind you again, but just so that you know, the you will need to call the Rufty Holmes number to register for that event. And it's for any senior over the age of 55, I believe.
Yeah.
So 55. I wanted to comment too on the librarian and the people she gets. I mean, you know, she does a magnificent job of getting entertainers to come here and perform at Christmas time. She had during Winterfest, she had some. I think there were Appalachian musicians who were here, and some people I knew from outside of Spencer said, "My gosh, y'all aren't gonna have enough room for all the people who are gonna come and see those guys because they have a huge following." So, you know, she really does do a great job. I want to thank all the folks who came out tonight to be a part of this this program. We need the input from our citizens to let us know what we're doing right, what we need to improve. So thank you all for coming, and for those of you who are watching online, we welcome your comments. So contact us. If you have something to complain about, let us know so we can maybe do something about it. If you have some praise, that'd be wonderful too. And again, just thank you for the opportunity to work with this group of people. We have an amazing group here, this board, the staff, and we get a lot of attention, get a lot of things done, and people are noticing it all over the county. Thank you.
Mr. Muhammad.
Sure, thank you. I just want to say thank you to the staff, department heads, this board, and most of all the residents that are here, the residents that are watching as well. And we got a lot of exciting things taking place, but it would be good to have more social events, you know, to piggyback.
Are you volunteering to believe
And you know
that?
what? I wouldn't have a problem doing that.
Sounds
That's a conversation that we can have. I don't have a problem doing it. I've done it before. That's fine.
I think you've
We
been
can do that.
told.
In a safe mannerism, orderly. But other than that, I just want to say thank you for, you know, like I said, for the residents showing up and the recognitions that were given this evening. I think they were well deserved, and hopefully there'll be more people residents in this community that will be willing to give back, because it's important to always give back. With that being said, everyone have a blessed night.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mayor Pro Tem.
I wanted to make reference to what you said and also what Mr. Howe said. One person that really gave to the North Rand community was Coach Robert Steele. And any of you who have lived in this area long know who he is. He was an outstanding track coach, probably the best high school track coach in the country at the time, with world champions and American champions. Tomorrow, Mr. Steele is going to be honored by having the North Rowan Track and Field dedicated to him. There's already a big sign that says this, but it's going to be an official thing done by Principal White. We unfortunately lost Coach Steele about a year or so ago. The town did a big proclamation for him at the awards ceremony. But he was an awesome man and an awesome coach. So if you can go to North Rowan tomorrow at 4 o'clock, this will be their only home track meet. It was originally scheduled for Thursday, but they changed also because of the weather. But that would be a great thing for you to do and show up and support the school and the team and honor Coach Steele, who deserves every recognition he ever gets. A lot of young men have successful careers because of him, because he sure did get a lot of young men and ladies also into college with scholarships. The girls program was as strong as the boys program. So it was really quite an accomplishment. Also, I want to announce that the schools will be doing their end of year testing in May, and they will be contacting us for proctors, and I will be sending out some information for the town board to share, or for the Sky to share. I'll send you some tomorrow, but they are going to be asking for proctors. But if you're interested in proctoring for any of the schools, because they do it at grades 3 through 12, contact one of the schools and let them know, because you do have a training you have to go through, and I'm not sure of the exact dates, but it is in May, and that may be something that we run into too with the day of caring. So, okay, that was the main thing I wanted to mention.
Hymns in the park, when is that?
Do what?
The hymns in the park.
Oh, I have that session. I think it's on the 21st or 28th.
28.
Yeah, 28th. And that's at the community garden. There will be a hymn singing in the community garden park on April the 28th. No charge for the hymns.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The only announcement I have this evening, board, is just a reminder at our May the 9th meeting. Following that, we will go into executive session. We'll be doing manager's review. And so be on the lookout this week. I'll be sending an email with the template for all of that, and ask that you would complete that in a timely manner and get that back to me so we can compile all the results ahead of that discussion. That's all I have tonight. Is there a need to go into executive session this evening for any reason? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Muhammad. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor? All right, all opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.